What's good, y'all? I'm Zero to Chaos.
And I am Melting Data.
And welcome back, everyone, yo. This is Culture Clash. We back. I guess we can say this is season 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a little bit. We're back. We got more stuff to talk about.
It's going to be fire. So, of course, our break took a little bit longer than expected. But it was a good break. Data, how have you been doing?
Been doing pretty good. I spent a lot more time than I thought I was going to trying to learn some different stuff about coding and whatnot. Been taking a lot of Unreal Engine classes. So, figuring out I don't know a lot of stuff.
But look, you on the right step. You learn it. 2025, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, though. It's like, I think a lot of stuff was learned in this break. And Lord knows we needed this break.
This is true.
But man, I will say this, for missing a month, because for me, I was on a fast with my church. So I was completely off of social media, completely unplugged for a month. And when I finally came back, I was like, whoa. Like, the stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, the stuff that I missed. Wow. But
There's a lot of wild stuff that's been going on, honestly.
my man, like, and you know how we are. So I will say this too. For newer people that are just tuning in to Culture Clash and you haven't heard from us from our last season 1, we are the best variety podcast that you're going to find out today.
This is true.
You know what I'm saying? Because the culture is not just one thing. The culture is a part of many things: music, video games, sports, books, you name it. There's a culture for it, I'm pretty sure. And good chance we're going to touch something on it in this podcast.
Yeah, we try to leave everything, no stone unturned when it comes to talking about things. If there's a nerdy entertainment topic, we gonna get to it eventually.
Eventually. Or even if it ain't nerdy. Sometimes we just be random. And if you,
This is true.
and trust me, if again, you can catch all of our episodes on Spotify. You can catch them on YouTube. We even have shorts on TikTok and Instagram. So just keep your eyes out for them, And if you like it, follow, subscribe, share it with your friends, your family, even your worst enemy. We'll take them all. Good or sometimes some of the negative comments be funny. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And if there's a social media platform you want to see us on, as long as it ain't X, just let us know, and we'll do our best to get over there.
I'm telling you, man. I'm glad you said that too. I had to go away from X, man. I had to, and of course, there's reasons for it, but majority of it was it's just not overall like the community that I built on X was okay, but there's a lot of things, man. There's a lot of cultural things that I wasn't feeling right with X, so I had to let it go.
It's been a wild ride the last month. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on, a lot of announcements, a lot of TV shows.
My man. And we're going to cover them. Now, we may not cover it like right when it comes out. We ain't there just yet. But we're going to touch on it. And I think one of them that you brought to my mind that, and I'm going to apologize to everybody out there that listens. Your boy Chaos is lacking, man. I've been so busy. I have not been watching television like that. My streaming catalog is so backed up, it ain't even funny. But that's why we have Data over here, because Data is the savior. Because, man. So I mean, like, we're gonna go into it. I'm gonna give this to Data because like I said, I've been slacking on this one. So Data, you got the floor, my brother.
Look, if our audience needs to know one thing, if there is a new Star Wars TV show, movie, or video game, I'm gonna go through it. It's happening. It's already bought. That's a decision that's already been made. I don't care if the money's there. It's happened.
He's like, I got
That
it.
being said, Skeleton Crew just finished recently. It was a shorter series from Star Wars. I think it was like 8 episodes ish. It's not connected to like the bigger plot. So unlike Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, stuff like that, where it feels like every other episode you have this next character that's been name dropped in 1,000 other things. Every character from this is completely unique. There's not a single character from like the bigger Star Wars story. And it gave them the freedom to just kind of tell whatever story they wanted within the Star Wars galaxy. And the perfect story for that is right after the fall of the Empire, there were a bunch of pirates. So we had a pirate story. And that's just awesome.
And I'm going to say, before we watch this trailer, now, of course, I've seen the trailer. I've just been lazy and haven't watched it. But I always, if you know me, if you watch my streams, if you listen to this podcast, you know when it comes to creative property, I am a huge advocate of use the world space to create your own adventures. That is exactly what this is. And my God, I can't wait to watch it. Like, this is exactly what I'd be talking about when it comes to things like this. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to spoil anything. But, alright, so we're going to check out Skeleton Crew on Disney+. We're going to check this trailer out. And then, Data, I am all yours. I want to get all of your opinions on this series.
Bet.
What are you in for?
Wow. Okay. So, I'm liking that. I mean, I've seen the trailer before, but like, man, watching it again, show my age, I get the Goonies. The old movie, The Goonies. I get so many like vibes from that.
That's fair.
And like, I hate to say it, but a little bit of that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 vibes. A little bit.
Also fair.
I'm impressed. I'm still mad that I haven't watched it yet.
Like, now I'm gonna do my best to stay spoiler free.
Okay.
You know, because I don't want to mess anyone's experience up of going and watching this for the first time. Because it's fantastic. You should definitely go watch it. It is unapologetically like goofy and just funny the whole way through. Like, yeah, there are some serious parts where they have to have the plot be serious going through it, but just the number of times that there's just unapologetically like goofy kid jokes. Like, you have them at a couple points where they're like, "Oh, I call claimsies on this." And like, just unapologetically goofy. It's so good. And I personally love the fact that they unshackled themselves from having to like constantly harp on the same stories, the same plot points. Like, we know that this is the Star Wars galaxy. We know that there was the Old Republic, the Empire, the New Republic, all that stuff. But it feels better to me to just explore a different part of that galaxy, a different, time period, a different story, where you can just kind of do whatever you want. You don't have to, specifically say, oh, well, we're going to do this story where it's going to tie in with, this and this and this. You can just kind of build a story, make characters, it works. Like, more series need to start doing this. Like, you have references to kind of all the big points. They talk about the Old Republic, they talk about the New Republic. Like, you have a few points where you have like space battles with X-Wings and stuff. Like, you have all the high points of Star Wars without it having to specifically be like the Skywalker story, if that makes sense.
Right. Which I think is perfect. Like I said, even in the trailer, I think they only mentioned the Republic once. And that was in a form of currency. So it's like, just that alone, because like I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like with a lot of some of the older Star Wars stuff that we got, it's like they spread that on there, man. Like even going back to like the last trilogy, where like in the trailer they showed the crusted head of Darth Vader, like Vader's helmet, things like that. It's like we get it, we get it.
Yeah.
We get the Skywalker story, we get it, we love it, of course. But it's like I like that with things like this, the Mandalorian. You know, even with a little spoiler, but even with the Mandalorian, they even showed like Luke Skywalker in that at the end of one of the seasons. But
I mean, that's been a few years. If people haven't seen that spoiler by now,
it's like you got all luck, bro. You should have been paying attention, not like me. But like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with little Easter eggs, or they pop in for a moment, like Boba Fett, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Cool. But they're able to stand up on their own 2 feet and deliver a story that has not been told yet. That's genuine. And what do you think? I guess my question is like the overall story and the vibes. Like how did you feel watching episode by episode?
so definitely at the end of each episode, they always left it at like a cliffhanger where you were constantly like, okay, I need to see the next episode now, because like they would conclude about halfway through the previous episode, and then through the other half of the episode, they're opening a whole different can of worms, and they always left it at kind of the peak, so that by the end of the episode, you're always wondering, okay, well, what happens next? So like the way they told the episodes, it was very satisfying because you always had a conclusion to the previous arcs, but you always also had a reason to come back and see the next bit.
Okay.
Probably the thing that I think they did the best. So, my nerdy side, in story writing, there's a literary device called Chekhov's gun. So Chekhov's gun is you never mention something without it not being important later. And so there's a lot of things that you hear through the first, couple episodes of the show that later on kind of pull a Chekhov's gun, where you've heard about it 6 episodes ago, and now you're actually seeing this is what they're doing with it. There's a lot of like Chekhov's gun moments where they reference something episodes ago, and then by the time you get to the end of the series, now they're bringing back those same themes.
And the payoff is
that
there.
To me, that is my favorite type of storytelling, where you just sprinkle in as you're going through these things that seem unrelated, like they don't matter, and then later on you're like, hey, were you paying attention 4 episodes ago? Because there's this thing, you should have remembered this thing.
It's like, darn it, I gotta go back and watch it again. Ain't mad because it's an amazing show. I'm gonna watch it again. I do have a question. Was this one weekly released?
Yes,
or did they give it all
was
to you?
weekly.
It was weekly? Okay.
Yeah, they had I think it was a 2-episode premiere, and then it was weekly.
After that?
I think it was like 8 or 9 episodes. I forget exactly how many they had total. I think 8.
I think about 8. I think and that's a good spot I feel like for a new series, especially on streaming. I think about 8 episodes is good, because I think normally if they get cleared for another season, I think that's when they get like 12.
Yeah,
if that. But visually, just from the trailer, like this looks really good. And I will say, now I could be nerdy sometimes when it comes to like CGI and things being like prosthetics and things of that nature, things looking real or obviously it's fake. A lot of the stuff in here looked practical. Like a lot of the practical effects in here looked really clean.
yes, that's one thing I like about Disney Star Wars is if it's possible for them to use a practical effect, that's what they try to use.
Right.
If they just can't do it, they'll CGI it in. That way, if they want something to happen, they can make anything happen that they want. But if they can do it as a practical effect, they try to do that. And I personally like that, mostly because of the nerd that the original Star Wars was that way. And it feels right for Star Wars to have it like that.
Right. The texture. And I mean, some people may not get that, but it's like sometimes you can look at CGI and like the CG animation, and it loses that texture, that dimension. Ahsoka, her series, like her whole makeup, the whole get up for her looked amazing.
Yes.
And it's like they could have easily just had her with the little green balls on her face and CG'd her alien look on her, but they're like, no, we're going to make this a practical effect. And
I'm glad they did not CG it, because we had in the prequel trilogy and later on in the original trilogy, we see Torgudas, her race. Like, we see them all use practical effects.
Right.
It would have felt so out of place if she was the only one that they CGI'd in. I'm so glad that they did practical effects for that.
And trust me, the internet would have been on fire. I know they would have. They'd have been like, what is this?
This is true.
Now, I will say that, I guess, my next question for you, with Disney Plus, of course we know Disney owns the property of Star Wars and future works of Star Wars. How do you feel with things like this? How do you feel they're doing with the product now?
So, the way I feel on it, Disney is doing its best with Star Wars when they are not making a movie. Because if you think about Disney Star Wars in recent years, their biggest mess ups were the sequel trilogy, the Han Solo movie, and Rogue One. Now, there were good moments in both Han Solo and Rogue One. I'm not totally throwing those under the bus. There were a lot of good things there. But their biggest mess ups have always come in their movies. Where they have succeeded the most are things like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, the continuation of the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, Star Wars Resistance. Like, all of their TV shows have just been absolutely stellar. And so, like, I honestly want to see more of this from Star Wars and from Disney in general. Because the more that we get their TV shows, the more side stories, the more kind of expansion of what the galaxy is as a whole we get to see. And that's kind of the part of Star Wars that I missed from when Disney took over. Because if you remember, before Disney, when you had the expanded universe, you constantly were getting extra side details about, new planets, new characters, new stories. And when Disney first took over, that all kind of just disappeared. But now that they have their TV, like their TV shows and whatnot that are coming through, I really feel like that's coming back. Where we're finally getting essentially Disney's expanded universe.
Okay. And do you think it's like, of course they heard the uproar from the fans, from the diehard fans, from the new fans, and I've always had that fence. I've always been on the fence where it's like, it's cool that something that I love in Star Wars now has a budget of like Disney behind it. So, we can do these crazy effects and these crazy things now because you have the backing for it. But I was also on that side of the fence with a lot of the diehard fans who, when they announced, a lot of that extra universe, the extra content that has been made before us, it's there, but we're not, we don't care. It's how I felt. They're just we don't care about it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna continue with the Skywalker stuff because that's the main canon. All that other stuff, whatever. You know, it's like you have the Clone Wars, you have these the animated shows. Like you have these things that have built a nice box for you to dig through. And yeah, felt like they were just like, nah. And then, you know, we get the Obi-Wan story. We start fleshing out the characters that we know already. I know with Bad Batch, I've seen a couple of those episodes. That was interesting, you know, and I think I've told you before too, like I've always wanted like a Twilight Zone style Star Wars show where it doesn't have to be concurrent with anything. It doesn't have to be based off of something that we already know. Just get like some creative minds to make some crazy stuff within the universe.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like
I feel like, have you seen Star Wars Visions?
not yet.
You should watch it. It's 2 seasons of almost exactly what you're talking about.
See, I'm putting on the list, making the list even longer, but at least it's good stuff. Because I said I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a child, so back in the '90s, and you know, the older I got, my love truly became like crazy when Knights of the Old Republic came out.
Yeah.
When KOTOR came out on the Xbox, like that solidified me as like, I like this a lot. Keep it coming.
Yeah.
And
Me personally, where I feel like Star Wars needs to explore more is, don't get me wrong, everybody likes space wizards. Space wizards are cool. But if you think to some of the best stories in Star Wars, they don't involve the Jedi or the Sith or any of that at all. The Battlefront 2, the EA Battlefront 2 story was amazing.
right.
When you have the original trilogy, it's mostly not about Luke as a Jedi. Most of the screen time is focused on other things. You know, you have the stories throughout the Clone Wars, Resistance, Rebels, where yes, there is some Jedi stuff sprinkled in, but there's also a lot of practical stuff. The stuff in Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian. Like, we see a lot of really cool stories that can be told without having to be tethered to, you know, the Jedi or the Sith or any of that stuff. And to me, when they're telling those stories, it feels a lot more grounded and a lot more just kind of cool to not have to constantly, because like, yeah, the Jedi, the Sith, the Night Sisters, like all these mystical things exist in Star Wars, but most of the galaxy isn't that.
Right.
Like, so little of the galaxy was that from the time Han Solo was a kid during the Old Republic and the Jedi were part of the government to when Han Solo is an adult, he was fully convinced that the Force was made up and that the Jedi weren't real. So,
Right.
like, these space wizards are so rare
That it's like the regular people are just like, sure, Jedi.
like,
But I think too, that was I'm glad that you mentioned that, because like one thing that I've always was curious about is I feel like we've watered down Jedi, Sith, like
yeah,
over the years. Like it's gotten to the point where it's like it's been used so much, it's been ran through so much that spark, that uniqueness of it is just gone. And the best way I can explain it was like the Clone Wars cartoon series that came on Cartoon Network back in the day, when they had animation. You know, it's not live action, so you can do more with cartoons. and they started to show like the creativity within the Force of them using their abilities, of them like just like combusting or taking apart a droid, things like that with the Force. And it was like,
Yo.
yo, like that put that mysterious idea, like your imagination, it just shot it up even more. And
Yeah.
that is what I think needs to come back, is that we have these shows, you know, like Skeleton Crew, where you said we're focusing on like pirates, bounty hunters, everyday salesmen. You know, it sounds crazy, but we're looking at it from their lens. So then when you bring back the Jedi component, they look bigger than life.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's missing. We know what they are. Most people know what Jedi and the Sith are. They know of the concept. But I think I would love for it to go back to where they're bigger than life. Even like Vader. Best example. The end of episode, was it 4? The scene where he pulls up and he's just tearing them up in the ship when they went to go get Leia for the first time.
Oh, Rogue One.
Yeah, yes. Like I want my Jedi and my Sith to appear like that. Crazy one-shot moments, over the top, but you see how like overpowered they are to the regular people.
May I introduce you to the Star Wars comics?
Yo,
The Vader comics
Yo.
are amazing.
if we had time, I would go dig them out right now. I think I got like one or two of them in my collection.
Because, like, the things that need to make their way to the big screen, and Ahsoka is the only one that's done this so far.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to see more of this, because in the comics, we have these stories about how Darth Vader built a castle in a specific shape on a specific planet so that he could channel as much Force energy into one spot so that he could use the Force to rip open the world between worlds and resurrect Padme. And then we just never see that in the movies, TV shows, nothing.
No mention.
We never see any of that. And like, so we have these huge, amazing feats with the Force in the comics that most people will just never know about.
Never. And like you said, like comics, again, like just how animation is with cartoons, comics can also, as big as their imagination is, we can make it happen. And
Yeah.
all
I got to do is draw it.
God, yes. And especially with one thing that I do like with Disney having like the Marvel properties, with them dabbling and dealing with comic based properties already, it should not be hard for them to be like, well, let's start looking at the comics when it comes to Star Wars. Even if we don't want to use the Skywalker stuff, there is still other topics and other things that we've developed through comics that we can bring to the small screen, not even the big screen. Because personally, I feel like a Star Wars movie should now become like not an every year thing. In my opinion, like they're doing amazing with the shows. Keep building up the universe with the shows, and then maybe spoil us with a good big movie. Maybe every other year, every other holiday. It could become a Christmas thing at that point, in my opinion. To wrap it up, so we go on to the next topic. Give us your final thoughts on Skeleton Crew, and if you had to rate it, we'll say 1 out of 5. We'll just keep it simple. 1 being like skip it, 5 being amazing, like must watch. If you had to rate it, what would you give it?
Easily a 5.
Okay.
Like, we see one of the most unique ships in Star Wars. We see one of the best stories they've told in a good little bit. Like, easily a 5. This should be on everyone's list.
All right. So everybody that is listening or watching the podcast, this is the Skeleton Crew from Disney Plus. So if you are a Star Wars fan, if you're not a Star Wars fan, if you're just looking for that next thing that you want to stream, because now you said the last episode came out recently, or like
Yes.
so
The last episode was a week or two ago, so the entire series is available on Disney Plus.
even better. So y'all can sit down, get some good eats, get some good drink, and stream this. That's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm a fine Tom. I'm a fine Tom to watch all of it, and when I'm done watching it, I'll put it back on the topic list, and we'll bring it back up for another.
Grab your
another
favorite
delay.
snack, favorite drink, cuddle up with a close friend, loved one, watch you some Star Wars.
You know what I'm saying? Are you watching? You better be watching.
They better be watching.
You better be watching. Better be paying attention. All right. But that is the Skeleton Crew, man. You can't go wrong with Star Wars. You cannot go wrong with Star Wars. Now, to shift, to pivot to our next topic for this podcast, there has been a lot that I told you I missed during this time. And I apologize to you guys. I apologize again. I understand culture clash. We're for the people. And we got to be there for the people. But sometimes things go past our radar and I just couldn't talk about it. And I really wanted to talk about it. Nintendo revealed the Switch 2, y'all. And if you are a avid listener of our older episodes, we laid into Nintendo. Let's just keep it real. Nintendo,
This is true.
they got the good, the bad, and the ugly from us. And it's going to continue to happen because we love Nintendo. We grew up on Nintendo. And I remember that we did mention the Switch 2. And now that it's here, I pulled up the official reveal trailer. So I would like for us to watch that with everyone who's watching it online. And we're going to give our 2 cents. And I think you will all be surprised. I think y'all will be surprised. Maybe not. But we're going to find out. Schwink. We've surprised them a couple times, I think. Let's hit this up. So this is the Nintendo Switch 2, the first look trailer that they brought out. My man. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm not excited. Alright? Not going to lie and say that I'm not hugely excited. Because Nintendo, come on, man. My Switch is literally behind my computer right now. So,
Mine's just right over here.
you know what I'm saying?
Within arm's reach.
Let's go ahead. How can I... I'm not disappointed. I think a lot of people, the people that I talked to off of before, like at work, things like that, out in the open, people may think that I was kind of disappointed with this. But I actually want to give Nintendo a huge respect. Because what they did with the Wii to the Wii U, and that flop, in my opinion, they learned. And when I tell you, like, this transition is going to be so smooth, and it's not confusing, it's cleaner, it's bigger, and it's an obvious visual upgrade. That's always good, in my opinion. No one has to like, well, what's different? Why is it this? This looks weird. Like, no, it's bigger, it's better, it's cleaner. I am thoroughly pleased with how this looks.
I am 98% really excited for this. I have a couple things that I'm worried about.
Okay.
The things that I feel like they did the best. A bigger handheld is just going to be better. It's going to give you a bigger screen, bigger battery. Your controllers can be bigger, which is going to make them more comfortable to hold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did well just giving a slightly bigger handheld. The Switch doesn't have to be as small as it is. They proved that with, like, the Asus ROG, the Steam Deck, the I think it's Lenovo that put out the Legion. Like they proved that you don't have to be as small as the Switch was. You can be bigger and it is still successful. They also hit it out of the park. Every console needs to have full backward compatibility with their previous titles. Like that just needs to be a thing that becomes standard generation on generation. You don't have to go a crazy distance back. Xbox is better than most, having titles from the original Xbox still compatible on the Series X and S. But backward compatibility with at least your last generation needs to be standard going forward. So having full compatibility with the first Switch's titles, amazing. Because that means not only are all your games going to be coming forward, but also when it comes to the Switch Online stuff. So all the emulators for NES, SNES, the expansion pass that added like the 64, the Game Boy, I think Genesis, like all of that being continued over to the next model of Switch. That's a good thing.
Huge. Especially with, not to cut you off, but especially with the catalog not being as big on release.
Yes.
Because I'll be honest with you, I'm going to get one, but I wasn't going to get one day one. Because I was like, well, there ain't going to be that many games out right away. But now, knowing that I can just get this, it's a clear upgrade. Now, my games are backwards compatible. Me and my wife can both, we of course will share the Switch too, but we now have the Switch. We can now play things together now.
Yeah.
And that alone, when I saw that backwards compatibility, I was like, heck yes. Especially in today's climate, where in the gaming culture, they're trying to get rid of our physical ownership of games.
Yes.
So Nintendo, good job. Like, dang good job right there.
Well, especially at the end of the Switch's life. And I don't know if I'm one of only a few that are harping on this, but I will continue to harp on it. The end of the Switch's life, there were certain games that just ran poorly.
Yes.
Tears of the Kingdom, the Metroid Prime remaster, Metroid Dread. Like, there were certain games that, like, I remember my first day sitting down to play Tears of the Kingdom, and when you first, like, jump off of the big Sky Island, I was like, holy lag, Batman. Like, that is insane. Like, it was bad.
So, question.
And being able to get the better processor of the Switch 2 and still play that, I'm hoping solves those performance issues.
Right. Question, though. Do you think... Because the more, like, the more I look at the Switch 2 and we see the capabilities of it, do you think maybe Tears of the Kingdom, the last Metroid game, do you think those were meant to be for the Switch 2, you think? In some way?
I'm not sure if they were originally meant to be on new hardware and they were just putting it off until they could properly refine it. I know those rumors were going around for a couple of years where they're like, we're getting a Switch 2 soon. So it's possible they were meant for newer hardware and we just didn't get the new hardware before we got the game. Because there were titles at the end of the Switch's life where it's like, man, y'all really were pushing it.
Yeah, you're pushing
like,
it.
This is more lag than you should have had. Like, that. This is a bit much.
And I will say, while it's on the screen, I don't like that dock controller.
Yeah, I didn't like the original Switch's dock controller either.
I don't like it.
I'm be honest. The first thing I did after I got a Switch is I went out and bought a Pro controller so that when I played docked, like,
I got the Pro controller.
I was not about to do that.
So I do
ask. And Nintendo, for the love of God, please don't make me have to buy a third-party Joy-Con to have a D-pad.
Yeah.
Please just sell one that has a D-pad.
Yes.
Like a real D-pad, not just the four little buttons.
Yes.
It's okay if I have to buy it separate. That's fine. I will do it.
He's like, just have
Don't make me have to go to someone else's website to fix that.
It's like just please, please, because even I mean, I think what really impressed me with this release and this reveal is the fact that this thing, and we talked about this before. My biggest kudos for them is that they are making this next system look clean to me to be more appealing to more people.
Yeah.
You know, the original Switch, the bright blue, the bright red on the sides, it was a little tinier. The screen was thinner. So, you know, you pull this thing out, it didn't, you know, unless you're a Nintendo fan, most randoms might be like, okay, that's weird, whatever. But like, to me, you pull this thing out on the bus, on the train, the plane, whatever, wherever you're traveling, it looks travel appeal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just looks clean. And
It's definitely a lot cleaner of a design from the original Switch.
yes, and I know, you know, they're gonna come out with limited edition Switches. They're gonna have
Yeah.
those bright colored, bright designed ones. But man, this thing, I was sitting there, I was like, yo, I'm already a huge fan of black. If I could have like literally all of my computer setup is black.
Mine too. I have a black and gray keyboard, black and gray mouse. Everything is black.
Like, this Switch is gonna look so good when I mount it right there behind my computer. Like, I already know where I want to put it and everything. Like, this release, because it is coming out in 2025, but they haven't officially announced the date yet. I think at first I thought it was going to come out during Christmas, but that would be way too late. I think it's going to come out maybe around like the summer.
That's the rumors that I've been hearing are saying summer, because Nintendo's fiscal year ends, I want to say in July,
Around that.
and Nintendo has said in like shareholder meetings and whatnot that the Switch 2 is going to be releasing before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And that says it should be like early midsummer.
Which would be perfect. Perfect. Because then you get the initial sales. So you're gonna get the pure fans, the people, you know, that are going to get it day one. And then you can flip it. The holidays come. I'm not sure what would be the flagship game, because I know they said that they're going to release the Switch 2 with Mario Kart, which I think is fine. I think that's a good safe game to release. Christmas time comes, my man. I'm gonna call it. I want to see the next Mario game.
I think one of their launch titles, because if you remember at the Switch Direct toward the end of last year, they talked about a few of the titles that they had that were going to be releasing. One of them that they did not give a specific date on, they just gave the year, I think is going to be a Switch 2 launch title, and that was Metroid Prime 4.
Yes.
Because all they would say about the release date was 2025. They would not say what month.
Man.
And as good as that looked, I'm going to be real with y'all. The Metroid Prime 1 remaster struggled on the Switch.
Oh, yes.
As good as Metroid Prime 4 looked, I was worried when I thought it was going to be a regular Switch title. Because I was like, oh, this is going to be Lag City. But if it's going to be a Switch 2 title,
that's different.
That could change some things.
Changes a lot. Because I know they're going to bring out the new Pokemon game.
Yeah.
That's going to get some more information once that comes out. And a lot of those games are not very graphically heavy when it comes to them. So, like, Metroid will be a beautiful benchmark test for it. I want to see the benchmark of this system. So, don't get me wrong. Nintendo is one of the few companies that doesn't have to go out to get, like, outside games and third-party games.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it has to run Elden Ring. Okay? I'm not saying it has to be able to run Elden Ring. But we cannot forget that there is still the Steam Deck, and there's other competitors now within this handheld department. And there's rumors, not confirmed, but there's rumors that Sony and Microsoft are both going to be making handhelds.
Yes.
So, I at least want this to be able to run games like Hi-Fi Rush. That
That's
type
fair.
of quality game. I do believe that like Resident Evil 2 and 4, like the remakes, like those that quality, I would like to see it be able to run things maybe in that realm. It's still graphically intense, but like those games are not as like fast paced. I feel like it should be able to run decent. Of course, Zelda, the next Zelda title, needs to be able not to be glitchy and like laggy as crap.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's a given. I know they said we're not getting another Smash Bros, but I do think we're going to be getting something within the fighting realm from them.
Yeah.
That needs to be like visually eye appealing to me because yes, of course we know that this will be affordable. So I would like for y'all to be able to at least compete with the Steam Deck. Because I'll be real, if the rumors are true, this is going to run maybe like 370 on the market. What, Steam Decks are going for what, almost 400, I think? 4 or 5?
I think the cheapest model you can get of Steam Deck is 4-ish,
Like
100.
like 400, right? Yeah. So this would still be a very good product. But I think especially for our love of games and Nintendo, we do need to keep it 100 with them. Like if we're gonna support, I'm gonna get one. So like we're gonna support it, but you know, if I had to give the original Switch a true grade, in my opinion, it got a C. In
Yep,
my opinion,
that's fair.
I wasn't mad, but I wasn't impressed fully. It did what it was supposed to do.
My thoughts with the Switch, and this is my biggest concern with the Switch 2, is the Switch, when it first came out, did amazing.
Mm-hmm.
In like, it was, I want to say March 2016
Around that,
was when it came out. And when it first came out, it did fantastic. It ran games impressively, like graphically fairly intensive games impressively. It didn't have major lag or stutter, and it was impressive to see a handheld at 720p, proper high definition handheld that was running games this well. And then it just did not update its hardware at all
right?
for what, 9 years?
9, yeah.
And like it just got to the point where it's like, okay, y'all, like when's your next model coming? Because it
This
needs
is
to
not it.
be now.
Like remember,
And
we got the OLED Switch late too.
and
And
all
the
that
same,
was a screen improvement.
right?
Really, there was no other internal improvement. The processor was the same, the RAM was the same. Like all we got was a better screen, better trackpad, or not trackpad, thing on the back, kickstand.
Mm-hmm.
The games ran the same. I really don't want to see that. There needs to be midlife for the Switch 2, either some kind of spec bump, or you just need a shorter console life.
Right.
Because
Right.
the way that you pushed games, I'm not saying that it was bad. I enjoy graphically like more impressive, more intense games as time goes on, but you also have to stay conscious of the hardware you're running it on.
Mm-hmm.
And if it starts to have bad performance, it's time for new hardware.
Right. I agree, 100%. And especially with them being in this market, because like I say, I'll always give Nintendo that credit. They were the pioneers of this, and
Yeah.
where they succeeded very well, that they got complacent, in my opinion. And
Yep.
now that the rest of the community, of the gaming community, is like, hey, you had your time, we can do better, and they have been doing better, and I'm not saying that this has to be like the Steam Deck, that this has to be able to run Linux and all this stuff. Like, no. Nintendo has thrived on being the people's system, the everyday system. If be real, if you want something new, if you want to keep up with the gaming and you can't afford a PC, I would tell you, like, yeah, go get a Switch.
Yeah.
You'll be able to play the new things that come out, of course, on Nintendo, but at least you know that you're somewhat within the same spectrum of games. You can at least keep it there.
Yeah.
I do think that them going to like the design, them changing the look of it, them making it look more eye appealing. This to me is their statement of them saying that we're about to push this into the homes again.
Yeah.
We want the everyday person to buy a Switch, not just the gamer. And that's not a bad thing. Some people will be like, oh, that's crazy. Gaming is the biggest form of entertainment. The culture of gaming is huge at this point. Like Data said, if you cannot change something within the midlife of this system, I feel like the games, I feel like maybe they're about to just give us so many good timeless games during this run that we may not even think about it. Because think about it, if I think nobody would have complained about the longevity of the Switch if all of the games were like just bangers.
Honestly, if they all ran well, like even if they weren't as graphically impressive by the end of the Switch's lifespan, as long as they all just ran well and played well, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, because personally, as someone who still regularly plays Morrowind, I don't care about graphics.
Same.
I could stare at a potato if it was fun.
Yep. As long as the mechanics of the game, the story, and that's something too that we can talk about in a later episode this year. Because we're gonna be touching on some touchy stuff when it comes to these companies too. Don't think it's all just what they say, sugar plum butterflies and birds happiness. Like don't get it twisted. We're just happy right now because this announcement is huge. The
Yes.
Switch, the Switch 2, I would say, like, especially because, like I said before, because of the flop they had from the Wii to the Wii U,
Which was huge.
like, bad. I'm so happy to see that, like, this transition is going to be so clean. You can show anyone this, and they're not going to be confused at all.
Yeah, I
Like,
hope so.
Because
Because the Wii U was awesome, but the public reception of the Wii U,
was so poor.
they just did not understand it.
Right. And understandable. We could be here all day because the Wii U, I would say the Wii U had to fail so the Switch could capitalize.
That's fair.
Because low key, that is kind of what they were doing if you think about it.
Yeah,
The big screen controller, they were kind of getting you used to it, I feel. But I don't think they mastered the whole fully transportable system just yet.
yeah.
And so they were like, let's just give it to them as a peripheral for this thing.
The idea of the Wii U was so good in so many ways, and then the execution just did not pull it off. Because the idea of having a second screen on your controller so that you could throw your maps, your menus, everything down on your controller so that without interrupting gameplay, you can just seamlessly mess around with your map real quick and then you just look back up, get back to gameplay. Like the idea of being able to do stuff like that, super cool. In practice, however,
Right.
you're still just looking down at a menu for a second and then looking back up to your gameplay. So why couldn't you have just hit a pause button?
Right.
Like in practice, it just didn't translate the same way.
The immersion. As much as you think it won't break your immersion from the game, it kind of does sometimes.
Looking at a menu is looking at a menu. It doesn't matter how you do it. That's like you can't get around that. If you're looking at a menu, you're looking at a menu. Like it doesn't matter if the menu is on your controller or if you just hit a button to bring it up.
Challenge accepted. Someone out there do it. Change the world of gaming. Make a menu like completely integrated, no immersion. Like if they can do it, that would be amazing.
Look, if you can make a game that feels like it has absolutely zero menus, but has all the functionality of it, I will buy your first copy. I will buy 2 first copies and gift the second one to Chaos.
Oh, definitely do it. I like free. So
like,
definitely do
I'm
it.
telling you, I will buy that first copy because I want an experience like that.
Mm-hmm. Now,
especially from an RPG, because that is my favorite genre.
That would be tough.
I don't know if it's possible, but like a menu-free RPG, could you imagine that?
Yo,
that'd be so nice.
I will say the closest one we got, maybe Dead Space.
Dead Space was close.
Like they were close.
I loved how they implemented like the health bar and your HUD on your character.
Yes.
So that while you were walking through, everything was contextualized on your character itself. I loved that aspect.
If they can do something like that, I'm just saying that would be like, now an RPG, questionable, but who knows?
I would love to see it though.
Maybe Data Guy be the one to do it.
I don't know that much about code.
You ain't there yet.
I would love to.
You ain't there yet. The key word is yet.
Yet.
You gonna figure it out. One day you're gonna call me and be like, I figured it out. I already have ideas. I'm not just gonna say them on here because I don't want nobody stealing their ideas. We ain't gonna get paid for that.
This is true.
I have ideas. I've always had ideas on how to do it. It's just, like you said, I'm not a programmer.
As someone who's trying to make my own open world RPG, I have so many ideas of mechanics up here that I need to pull it out and put it out
and just
on
make
the screen
and get it there. I get it, bro. I get
Plug the USB directly into my brain and just channel the thoughts.
To wrap this one up, clearly we both just said we're gonna buy it. We're both gonna support this. So my last question to wrap this up: what is one game franchise that you would like to see come back on the Switch 2?
Donkey Kong.
I gotta change minds now. Okay, so I gotta change.
I have wanted a new Donkey Kong game for so long. Donkey Kong Country Returns is okay.
Yes.
It's okay that we're getting the HD version, but I already had that on my 3DS. I want a new Donkey Kong, dang it.
Fair. Okay, so I don't want to just say the same one. I do agree. Donkey Kong was my first. Second, I want to see Earthbound.
Yes, that would be another.
That
would be fantastic.
It's been a while, and I want to see it in the graphics of how they've been doing the remakes of Legend of Zelda.
Fair. That would actually look really good.
I want to see that happen.
Like that honestly would look really good. That art style would match a lot.
I think that would be beautiful. And people know Ness, they know Lucas, they know enough now of that world through Smash Bros. I think it would work.
Yeah.
And
give us a new Earthbound, Nintendo. That would be fun.
And I'm not a fan of DLCs like that. With Mario Kart already being announced for the Switch 2, go ahead, figure it out, get us Diddy Kong Racing DLC.
Yes.
And F-Zero DLC.
Look, Nintendo, if you need to do it to make good Donkey Kong again, just buy Rare.
Honestly, yes. You have.
I know Microsoft owns them, but all they're doing right now is Sea of Thieves, and Microsoft is not getting the full mileage out of them.
All they're doing is firing
We-
people at this
We
point.
need good Donkey Kong again.
Take
Good
it.
Donkey Kong existed when we had Rare. So I'm not a mathematician, but 1 + 1 seems like it's equaling 2 right now. Just buy Rare. I want good Donkey Kong again. I
If
want
they-
another 3D Donkey Kong. The last 3D
Yo.
Donkey Kong was on the Nintendo 64,
Yo, yeah,
and that was one of my favorite ones.
yeah.
I want new Donkey Kong.
DK has been in the chamber for a while. I mean, they let him out for Smash Bros. But that's about it.
Man, that character
Like-
gets so little love nowadays. The last new Donkey Kong game we got came out on the Wii U.
Right, which no one played.
Like Donkey Kong Country Returns Tropical Freeze was a Wii U title. We are 2 generations on
Two.
come the summer, and we don't have new Donkey Kong.
I did see that in this trailer. They have a Nintendo Direct coming out in April
Yes.
2nd. So, Data, me and you, April 2nd, if we can, we gotta do a podcast just on the Direct.
Bet.
I think that
100% down.
the culture needs it.
Yes.
The culture needs it. You hear it here. We're gonna do a Nintendo Direct podcast on it, and we're gonna give our 2 cents. We're gonna watch everything. So keep a lookout that week for our content. All right, guys. This was a good episode to come back to, man.
It was.
This
It was a good break. We got a lot of clarity, a lot of thinking done. It was good to come back.
It's good to come back, bro. And to wrap it up, I don't know if I wanted to always just be the small violin sob guy, but we thank everyone that still supports us. I've gotten messages, I've gotten emails, comments, everything about people asking, "Are we okay? When's the next episode coming? Is everything okay?" Everything's fine. You know what I'm saying? One thing that I've learned throughout my life of doing content, if you feel like you need a break, take it.
Yes.
Don't be afraid, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to burn out. And
This is true.
personally, I felt like I was burning out. There's a lot more that happens behind the scenes with your boy Chaos and FSP and just life. Data is my brother, so anything that I do, I try to make sure that my bro is also taken care of as well. And that's something that if you work with your friends or your family, always never lose that. All right, that's just a little my opinion. Never lose that. They always say you can't work with your family. Well, don't lose your family. It makes your job, makes your work a lot easier. Trust me. Next episode will be announcement crazy. So do not miss the next episode of Culture Clash. We are going to be revealing a lot of things that has happened within this month that we have not been playing. We have not been recording. So tune in. It's going to be big. Data, anything you want to say before we close out?
Nothing crazy. Just remember to check us out on Spotify for the audio version of the podcast. Check us out on YouTube for the video cuts. We also put up shorts on Instagram, TikTok. If you want to see it someplace else, let us know. We are both, or we at least have an account for Blue Sky. I have not posted, but the account exists. We're open to that. If there's another platform that y'all would like to see us on, let us know. I'm not opposed to trying a platform. I can't promise that I will post on said platform, but I'm not opposed to trying it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just hit us up anywhere and everywhere and let us know what you thought about what we talked about today.
Yes, and don't forget, guys. Don't be afraid. Comment. Let's hear your 2 cents, because you know what I'm saying. Because honestly, that's what we're doing. Culture Clash wants to build a culture within this podcast space for us, that we all can talk and have good conversation. You know, so who knows? Maybe in the future we can do this live and have open discussions with people. Who knows? Just putting it out there in the ether, because that's how you have to do things. Yeah, no. So until next time, I'm Zero to Chaos,
And I am Melting Data.
and this has been Culture Clash. We're back. We're better than ever. And until next time, y'all be safe. We'll catch you later. Deuces.
Peace.